I'm Josh Condon. I'm here with Todd Snyder, and we are talking about a very big project for you, the new Todd Snyder limited edition Balmoral Defender.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here.
What I thought when I saw the name of the collection, which is Rugged Gentleman, I thought, how perfect for the Defender.
Yes.
Because that is exactly who you think about, right? When you think about a Defender, you think about this sort of like, you know, guy with the old pile working in the garden who gets in his old Defender but is having his suits made on Savile Row, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's both of those, all of those things.
Yeah, and that's truly what I love about English style is there's always kind of this nod to the tradition, but then, you know, how do you modernize it and make it different? And I think, you know, throughout the design process, it was always like thinking about the balance of that.
I mean, this is a big project, right? I mean, between all of the changes, and it's sort of a global build between England, between Spain with the leather in the interior, between America for the engine. So, like, how long was that process in terms of design?
I think it was close to a year. I mean, by the time we kind of talked about it, and then trying to get the color right, trying to get leather on the inside, and trying to come up with the right stitch detail and all that, it really took a long time to put it all together. I know once they got the donor and they kind of started the process, it was a good year, you know, start to finish, because there's just a lot of
2,000 hours, I heard.
Yes.
Of work time.
Wow.
We've talked before, like, you've done a lot of collaborations, and I know also specifically, like, you've talked about your love for English shop culture.
Yes.
There is possibly no more British car than the Defender. Was there anything while you were working on this design that struck you, like, just call it the Britishness of the vehicle, or the thinking behind it, or, you know, the original? Yeah,
I mean, to me, it just really epitomizes British style, because it's something, and I think that's what's interesting about British style in general, is they're always rooted in this very kind of authentic heritage way. And whether it's apparel or whether it's a car, and as you said, this car really is on point as far as embodying that. You know, this car has been the same design for decades, up until the modern ones. But this thing kind of made it through wars. It made it through the countryside, and it's the Queen drove it. You know, it's kind of those things. Like it is a truly authentic car, and that for me was really important. And, you know, having something that not only is beautiful but also has that authentic vibe was important. So whenever I do a mood board for my own, you know, apparel collection, I always start with a car, and it's usually a Defender. It's usually a Defender. Defender's usually how we start the whole process. So there will always be that as kind of like the center point. And then from that, you think of, like, who's the guy, what music does he listen to, what watch does he wear, where is he traveling to, and trying to figure out a way to, like, build a story behind it. And I've always kind of used, you know, Paul Newman as kind of my muse in a way of, like, you know, wherever he was, whether he was driving in in Le Mans, or you know, doing something on the Riviera, or, you know, in the country or whatever, he always looked cool.
Yeah, at a time before stylists.
Yes, long before that. What I love about the Defender, it's kind of like that perfect blend of luxury meets utility, and, you know, these things are very coveted, just because they really embody great design that is also amazing utility. I mean, it's just the attention to detail that they do, even the zippers they pick. It's just, you know, it's real. There was a lot of input we did in the beginning, and we talked about color, we talked about materials, we talked about all that, and then they were able to really kind of work with their people to make it great. And that to me is the same way I work. I like to hire great people and then let them do what they do well. And this was no different, just a different, you know, substrate in a way.
How much does it track with the way that you normally design and work with suppliers and manufacturers? You know, a little bit of that push-pull.
Very similar. It's very similar, and that's what I do when I go to mills. I'll sit down with the master weaver and literally just talk about, this is what I'm inspired by. You know, whether it's a person or a place or whatever, and then you just go, and then you start to, you know, riff off each other, and that's truly what this was. It was a great collaboration where it's not just me in a room by myself doing it, but you're sitting down with amazing technicians and artists, and really coming up with something different that you both never thought was possible. And it even came down to this color, because I remember when we were talking about it, you know, black was the easy go-to, but then
Right.
like coming up with, you know, this color, I mean, they searched high and wide for it. We were kind of combing through, you know, different patterns to make it signature for Todd Snyder, and we came up with this kind of honeycomb. Which,
So this is exclusive to you?
yeah. So we wanted something that gave you texture without, and you don't see this anywhere. I mean, and this quality of leather is just stunning. But this back is just killer. I mean, the details that they do on these saddlebags are just, it's incredible. It's just like clever little things like this that still, again, if you look at the workmanship.
What I think is very cool is it feels very authentic to the original, but the more you look at the details, like I was speaking to Sarah, the founder before, that's a custom gauge cluster just for you,
Yeah.
right? You have the sort of level of stitching and interior work here. I mean, this is a 3rd generation master stitcher in Spain who specializes only in automotive, right? So what I love about it is it's as sparse and utilitarian feeling as the original, but you can actually fall into the details.
Yeah, and it's really that kind of level of craftsmanship, and having someone who knows leather better than me and leaning
Which
into
is no
what they
small
know.
thing.
It's no small thing, no. But I mean, 3rd generation, it says everything. There's somebody who's been handed down this. You know, you always hear, I think that's what's great about Europe, is craft is still very important, and people still do this. You know, it's not something that it just pops out of a factory. It's something that somebody is painstakingly going through every little detail. And I think that's what's really interesting about working with Sarah, who you mentioned earlier, is just like this all matters to her.
The 0 to 60 of this original model in the Euro spec, it was like 16 to 18 seconds.
Really?
So you now have an LT1 Chevy V8 crate engine in here. You have about 4 times the horsepower.
Wow.
Yeah, and just more torque than you're ever going to need, which begs the question, where is the first place you're going to drive this?
Isn't that great?
He's getting super excited.
In the city, of course.